What's up, Positive Vibers? Today, for our second Positive Podcast Series episode, we've got Taylor Concepcion, who has done a lot of amazing work in suicide prevention, mental health, and substance abuse. So today, we're going to explore the world of Taylor Concepcion and their work, and we're going to be looking at some of their passionate projects and some of the most exciting stuff that they're doing. Thank you so much, Taylor, and get excited for this, folks, because this is a good one.
Thank you so much, everybody. Today we're going to be talking with Taylor about their amazing projects and what they're working on, including a book, a podcast series, and why they're so passionate about mental health. So we're going to be talking about mental health and prevention of suicide. So trigger warning if this is sensitive for you. Maybe you don't want to watch or you want to omit some information. We'll be going into some deep topics. So thank you so much for coming. And Taylor, to start off, please tell us, for people who don't know you, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, awesome. No, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to collaborate and get our messages out. Me, Taylor Concepcion, I'm from Vegas. Been in Vegas for majority of my life, so years on years now, and graduated from UNLV, got my interdisciplinary studies degree with addiction prevention, marriage and family therapy, and leadership and civic engagement. So right after that, I hopped right into working in the recovery world. So I worked mainly with substance abuse, wide homeless population, women coming from prison, women coming from jail, all walks of life. So I've had quite the experiences. I've gotten to hear quite the stories and work with a pretty cool range of humans. But then I started working on my own brand called Touchy Mentality, where I started mental performance coaching with athletes to people going through recovery, to pretty much your everyday human. So started doing that, and I'm such a creative, so always have different projects going on. I have a YouTube channel. I have a podcast that I work on, the Uni Podcast, where I'm the director for that. And yeah, I mean, I got my hands in a lot of cookie jars all the time.
No, I can feel that. Yeah. Aside from doing the Positive Vibes magazine and the podcast series, because it's like I'm in college right now at Cal Poly Pomona. I'm president of Active Minds, have you heard of Active Minds?
No, I haven't. Sounds cool though.
Yeah, Active Minds is a coalition of mental health advocacy. So that's a cool organization if anyone's interested to look into that and maybe start a chapter on your college or high school campus.
Awesome.
So yeah, I even have a training today at 2:30 about suicide prevention.
Okay.
But yeah, it's cool that you're busy. It feels great to be busy and involved in so many different things, especially when it contributes to like a greater good, or helps people out, and also like diversifies different experiences and amplifies other voices. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to definitely get people who aren't necessarily big, or maybe they are big, but they're very alternative in their approach. Like recently, we interviewed Patty Negri, who is a psychic, who helps people, feel uplifted with the power of magic. And that was actually really interesting to hear her perspective on everything. So we have interviews like that, and then we have interviews, just so many different things. We want to just, encapsulate a message of just positivity. And what's so unique about that is it's to be a different approach for everyone. It could be totally different for this person and that person. People's experience is so different, and we want to give people that diverse perspectives to coordinate with their own life and see what they can create. But yeah, awesome. So I know your Uni podcast is a lot about mental health and talk about substance abuse. Why are you interested, or we'll start with why are you interested or an advocate for mental health / suicide prevention? Why did you gravitate towards that?
Yeah, growing up in Vegas, it's, all these things are so prevalent: drugs, alcohol, parties at a young age. You start experimenting so young, and I always had an older friend group. So it was kind of always around all these temptations and experimenting and all these things. So with that, and not to bag on Vegas by any means, Vegas is a great place, come visit. But that was just always around me. And so naturally what started to happen was I started to notice, really close friends of mine, my best friends even, get addicted to drugs and start going down that path and start stealing and start, just kind of dropping off, going rogue. They would go missing. I wouldn't hear from them for months. And I knew it was because of drugs. So that was one of my, biggest things. Once I got to college, I was said, you know what? I want to make an impact in the recovery world. I want to be a helping hand in this space. And it turned out actually my freshman year of college, my best friend that I had since the 5th grade, her older sister had actually passed away from a heroin overdose. And so that was like, earth shattering for all of us. And it just kind of pushed me even more and like lit that fire inside of me that was like, this is what I'm doing. Like, this is definitely what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to work in recovery. I'm going to help drug addicts. I'm going to work with people that are struggling through these things, no matter where the root is, no matter what kind of criminal they are. Like, I want to help them. And so, yeah, one thing led to the next. I ended up working in a residential women's treatment center right out of college. And then I ended up managing a women's sober living house. And then by the grace of God, I found a Desert Rose counseling group where I started working as a case manager. And then under that, with Bianca McCall, she had asked me, after I did a podcast of my own called God's Gangster, which is also about substance abuse and recovery, she asked me like, hey, do you want to do the Uni Podcast with me? And I was like, yes, yeah, why not? And it just has turned into this beautiful project. And, she's given me the opportunity to direct and just, kind of help it blossom. And it's been so, so cool to bring these people on and give them a platform to speak and share their stories, where some of these people have never shared their stories before, even once. And so for them to come on and share it with, our huge audience and, basically share it with strangers, it's amazing that you'd share it with like all these strangers, but not share it with your best friend. So it's been really cool.
Yeah. I think there's like a level of trust that you may not want to overstep with your friends or family. That's why it can be so hard to be open to your family. That's like sometimes when you find some random stranger, you can vent more than you probably can with your family, because there's no strings attached. They may not hold you accountable. They may not judge you. They are just kind of listening to you. And I think that could be what you're talking about. And yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm curious. So it's not part of the questions, but I was curious on what your response or reaction is when people judge people who do drugs or consider them weak, air quotes for the podcast, if you know I'm doing that. But
Yeah, no.
so yeah, I'm curious what your response is and what really goes in the minds of people who are doing drugs. I'm just curious. I know it's different for everyone, but in general, I would like to, like, what's the message on why people do drugs and what can people do to be more resonating with them and empathetic?
For sure. There's so many things. And often it comes down to feeling a lack of purpose, being insecure, feeling social anxiety. It could be basically the only life that you know. If you grew up and that's all your family did, then that's the life that you know. That's what you think is normal. And so that's a lot of the cases. That's what it is. It's like they don't know because they've never been taught. And it's something as simple as just the way that they were loved or not loved. And that can also be, common confusion, because you think love is this and it's not, and it's that. And that's when people start to turn to these things because they want to feel what they're lacking, and they think that this is what will get them there. And, let's say it gets you to all the wrong places. But majority, I've had a lot of hard conversations with people's parents. I've had to tell someone's dad that, their daughter left and I have no idea where she is. And it's not, I'm like legally not allowed to look for her or find her, so those, there's hard conversations, but everybody's different. Everybody walks their own path and has their own journey. And you really never know the demons that people are fighting. I mean, they could tell you one thing, but like I could tell you I have anxiety, but really I'm just so insecure, but I don't want to tell you that. I'd rather tell you I have anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even this, there's like a huge movement for this stuff you're talking about, especially with mental health. I think there's a growing movement of leaders that are pushing the conversation and trying to change the conversation about mental health. But I like what you're getting at, because I think people can still hide behind the name, as in saying, oh, I have major depression. And you're like, oh yeah, major depression. But then they won't elaborate. You kind of have a consensus on what that means. Like, oh, I see you're depressed. But then it's like, you're still kind of shadowing what you're really experiencing because you're not really opening up. But I understand, everyone's different. Maybe people are very uncomfortable. At least they're taking the step and telling them at least that they have depression. They're open up to that. That's a good first step. But yeah, there's still a lot of work. I mean, of course, definitely. I mean, that's why we're having this conversation still, because there's so much work that needs to be done. And what you said, especially with people who grow up in abusive homes or grow up with a specific mindset, which is all of us. We have a mindset that we grew up on, and we've been catered to it. And so I can't imagine it, but it's so hard to ask someone to completely change their reality and what they believe is healthy and good relationships.
Yeah.
I think, it's so hard to ask someone, this is really not healthy. This can be potentially very dangerous for you. We want to get you on a good path of healing and recovery. And so it's like, how do you come to terms with your whole reality being shifted when you thought that was okay this whole time? That's why I can imagine recovery is so hard and so difficult. Yeah, great.
And
But honestly, oh, sorry.
No worries. I was just going to say, naturally as humans, we all want instant gratification. So as the family member, as the mom, as the dad, as the sister, as the brother, best friend, whatever, you're like, okay, they start going to treatment, they'll be fixed in 7 days. But it's like, no, it's not that they need to be fixed. They just need recovery. They need a recovery plan. They need to find something greater than themselves. And that doesn't happen in 7 days. It doesn't happen in 30 days. And sometimes it doesn't even happen in 90. So this is like, I tell people all the time, like, your recovery is your everyday new job. Like, and it doesn't stop until you die. So like, your recovery is just as important as you breathing, because you can be, 2 years, 5 years sober down the road, and you think everything's cool, and you take that drink or you do whatever your, drug of choice is, and things are not cool again, because your brain, it just remembers, it's like muscle memory. And so, that's another thing. I think people, just like anyone trying to, eat clean or go to work out, it's like you want instant results, and it just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, wow. No, I completely understand what you're saying, because, even with mental health or substance abuse, it's a lifelong battle, and it does not stop in 8 days. And if you treat it that way, it'll probably even get worse.
Right.
Like for me, for sure, I think, mental health is the whole thing. It's your entire life. Don't kind of run from it. Don't escape from it. Try to live with it and embrace it in a way that's healthy for you, and so you're not ashamed of it as you carry it on in your life. So when it comes to substance abuse, what I think is, like, I was thinking that, sorry. Oh yeah, it's like what you're saying, like when people take that first drink, and it could be, again, they totally changed everything on what they've been working on. Also, yeah, like I said, it's like a lifelong battle, so you can't really expect it to change that fast. I had another point, sorry, but hopefully I can remember it. But yeah, I was thinking that, no, really, these people, it's their entire life. I was going to say, of course, I think what the main problem is that a lot of families and people, when it comes to substance abuse, they mainly go for treating the substance abuse, treating that, instead of saying, let's treat it, get you off of it, and we'll go on our merry way. Instead, let's talk about why I decided to go this route. What do you need healing in your life? If it's mental health, insecurity, anxiety, what is it that made you take that first drink or take that first drug? And I think that's great when they combat it that way, because drugs can be just a gateway for someone who can't deal with their emotions or deal with their insecurities. And so tackling the treatment and the recovery is great. But then where's the underlying problem that they had, or the underlying issue that they've faced, or emotions they couldn't deal with? I really think that can help a lot, especially since you're actually tackling why they did it, instead of, we just need you to stop. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's getting to the root.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Great. Let's see. So I want to know about the Uni Podcast. I actually thought you were the founder. So it's
no, the founder. I just direct.
Awesome. So then tell us about your experience doing it and what it's been like, meeting with guests and working with different people on it. How's it been?
It's been so cool. I mean, like I said, we've had such a wide range of people on there, and it just goes to show how suicide affects anyone. It's just like drugs. It doesn't discriminate. We've talked to veterans, we've talked to chefs, we've talked to a wedding planner, we've talked to DJs, we've talked to people who've been in recovery for over 10 years, 26 years, we've talked to influencers. I mean, the list goes on. And that's been the coolest part, is because we can talk about these things and put them in all these different spaces and let all these different spaces know, like, hey, it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to feel these things and talk about it and, share these stories of triumph and overcoming and just, feeling like you want to live.
Yeah, it's great. And that's what's amazing about the podcast and just mental health in general is that all scopes of life are going to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
All people will deal with it. So it's like you're bringing like the most different people who have completely different professions or different lives, but yet they're connected by this one rooted issue or feeling. And it's great that the platform, Uni Podcast, is giving, these individuals the chance to speak up and kind of tell their story on why it is okay to not be okay. And I know that's so hard to grasp for some people. Like, especially like just how society is and how you've been kind of structured to put on a face all the time. And it can be difficult to be sensitive, especially when it could just be hard. There are plenty of times where people are sensitive and they're shamed for it. And so why would I want to continue being sensitive and opening up if I'm shamed for it, or if I'm looked at differently, or I'm treated differently? There's so many societal barriers that like need to be changed, and it really just starts with the conversation, because I don't know how else you could really change it without talking. And that's the point, is the main thing was always about just talking about your feelings. It sounds so easy. Like, it sounds like just talk about how you're feeling. We really want to hear how you're feeling and what you're going through. But really, it's such a complicated thing, and it can be very hard for people for so many different reasons. Yeah. Did you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I mean, we've created so many good connections from having people on, and we created a great connection with GTB Radio. That's where we film, we record, we do the audio engineering, everything. And we just people, they want to be involved, which is the coolest part. It's like, yes, it starts with a conversation, but so many guests have reached back, like wanting to do different things, and like, hey, how can we, what are you guys doing? What are you guys up to? Are you having an event? Like, whenever you do something, I'd love to be involved. And that's the next best thing. It's like, starts with a conversation, and then people want to actually do actions, and you can't ask for more.
Yeah, great. And then, again, going to events, collaborating with people, getting your brand out there. It's all part of it. I'm a communication major, so I know about like marketing and public relations, and so that's like my forte. I love helping. Why I love it is it's really just connections and relationships. That's what communications is, and I love that you need it literally everywhere, and without it, it's gonna fall apart. So that's why I love the field. Anyway, enough about me. I wanted to ask you tell us about the relationship you're in, the book you wrote. I know that could have sounded like
none. Yeah. The relationship you're in, was super outside of my comfort zone. It is a side of me that not very many people have seen before. So that's why it was like way far left. But it was an idea that I've had for so long. I've wanted to write a book for years now, and I've had all these different ideas just kind of sitting in my laptop. And recently that was the one that really was starting to speak to me, and was like, kind of like the poking bear, just kept hitting me and nudging me like, all right, you have this, let's push it out, let's do it. And so I just started plugging in at it, and I wrote it trying to explain without spoiling the teasers. I wrote it in a way where it could be interpreted a lot of different ways. So I didn't want to write it just so direct. I wanted the readers to be able to kind of draw their own conclusions and kind of take it wherever they wanted to. But at the same time, it is also very direct and to the point, and it's very raw and real. And don't let your kids read it. Definitely an 18 and older book. But honestly, it's just the beginning. It's a short read. You could finish it literally in probably 10 minutes. It's very quick and humorous. It's the book I imagine people leaving on their coffee table, as long as they don't have kids that can read it and reach. But I'm working on a workbook that's going to go along with it. And I think that's going to be really cool, a really cool complement to that.
Awesome. Great. So what was the process like writing it? Like, are you necessarily a writer? 'Cause you said this was like totally out of your comfort zone. Do you mean sharing your feelings in the book, or do you mean like writing?
You know what? I've always been a journal freak. I have so many different journals, so I will say I've been a writer, even though I haven't ever published anything before. This is my first published piece.
Awesome.
I've been interviewed in magazines and different things like that before, but that's totally different. So, but the basis of this story, the basis of this short read was very, like I said, just not my character that people see all the time. TC mentality is very positive, inspirational, motivational speaker, mental performance coach, all these different things. And this book was like none of those things. This book was purely, honestly, about cheaters, about being stuck in the friend zone, and about those very few long-term relationships that actually last. And that's what makes it humorous, is because I think in one way or another, we've all experienced cheaters, being friend zoned, and someone, maybe two people that have been in a long-term relationship. And I think that was what kind of makes it real and raw and funny at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you say it's so different from like your persona with your other channels and networks. And I think that's great, because now maybe people can resonate more with you.
And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that this is a whole new side that people can connect with. Because there's nothing about substance abuse in the book, which has always been my niche. And again, it's not like your motivational speaker book either. It's not your self-help book in a sense. It is actually kind of self-helpy, but that's to your own perception, I suppose. But yeah, I really am hoping that people can connect with me on a new level, and not like we talked about earlier, not just judge me for saying things that I said.
Yeah, just tell your story, no strings attached, people just can take it what it is, and hopefully they appreciate it. But even if, I'm sure everyone has experienced hate, but being online, I've never experienced hate, so I don't know if you have, but I think at that point it's just being strong and being confident in your convictions and your beliefs and just who you are. And that can be hard, because I've never gone through that. I've never gone through scrutiny for being online or saying something. So I can imagine how anxious I would feel. So that's like the advice I can give.
No, I already had some haters pop out of the woods, so I had to accordingly. But I honestly, I expected some people to be a little fragile about it, so it was okay.
No matter what you put out there, there's gonna be someone who does not like it. And you know what? That's good for them. Power to them if they don't like it, as long as they're decent. As long as they're a decent person about it. But anyone can have their opinion. Just be a good person. That's all I care about.
Yep, for sure.
But then, so I have a question. What advice would you give someone right now who is experiencing maybe some traumas, emotional traumas, mental health problems, or just feeling super isolated during COVID? What can they do to empower themselves to be the best they can, or the best they can be, or the happiest?
I encourage everybody to find, I know it sounds silly and totally goes against introverts, but find a support group. Find a group of humans that support you and that want to listen and talk with you, and you share similar mindsets with. And I don't care if it's online. I don't care if it's from your video game site. I don't care where it comes from. As long as you have those people, that's huge. I know one of the biggest things for me, anytime I've been in dark spaces, I have amazing best friends that I've had since the 5th grade, since high school, since college. And I'm pushing 10 years out of college now. So, I've had these friends for a really long time, and they're my rocks. I mean, they're truly what keeps me alive. And I know that sometimes you think you can't talk to those people that are closest to you, but I promise you that you can. And when you think you can't, not to be a religious pusher or anything like that, but I do also push people to find something greater than themselves to talk to, whether it's God, the universe, the door. Again, I don't care what it is. Start talking to yourself in the mirror. It's another big one I tell people to do. And that's just huge on your confidence. I mean, I've talked to so many people that, don't even want to look at themselves. And I literally make people look at themselves in the mirror and say positive affirmations, because that's so huge to look at yourself and say, even like something silly, like, hey, good looking, how's it going? And that's important. It's important to get that energy flowing through you and start feeling good about yourself in the smallest ways. So reach out to a group, find someone, even if it's God, if it's the universe, some spiritual guide that you have. Start talking, start writing. If you're not a talker, you don't want to talk, start writing. Writing has been a huge outlet for me in so many different ways. Start writing, start drawing, start singing, start rapping, start dancing. Whatever it is for you, give yourself the time and the space to heal. And that's huge, is giving yourself that healing time. And again, like I mentioned before, like we talked about, it's not overnight. You're not going to wake up the next day and feel perfect. There's going to be hard days. You're going to go day after day feeling really crappy. But those days will roll by. And, as I like to say, that too will pass. And you'll start feeling better again. It's just a matter of time. And you have to put the work in.
Yeah, I forget if I was writing something, if I was talking about it. I was saying, I think it was in one of our posts where I said that, oftentimes we're super hard on ourselves and we don't give ourselves a break. And I even said that, it is going to be hard because it's already hard enough to be in a relationship with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a way dating yourself, which everyone should. That sounds so weird. But in a way, think of it that way. Like, you're dating yourself, you're trying to help what you do to others. Because I hear so many people that are like, oh, I love helping others, but I never help myself.
Sure.
Then at this point, think of yourself as a friend or a girlfriend or boyfriend or partner, and cultivate the relationship with yourself. Because
100%.
Yeah, and if you're insecure with yourself, it's going to reflect in your other relationships. So
Yes.
You may not even be your best self with your partner if you don't accept yourself.
Yes.
And it could put a lot of damage on the relationship, and it could put a lot of pressures on you and the partner, because maybe they're always trying to help you and give you confidence and you just don't feel it. And at that point, you can't rely on other people telling you things too. At that point, really what it comes down to is like just what you feel about yourself and your self-confidence, because you're the one who has to live with yourself. People move on. You may not see them ever again one day, but you have to live with yourself all the time. So try to make it as fun and entertaining as possible with yourself.
And honestly, to be honest with you, that was another one of the deep-rooted messages behind the relationship you're in, which you can find on Amazon. It's there by Taylor Concepcion. But that was one of the deeper messages behind, as humorous and as real and as raw as it was. I plan to, as I work on this series, as I go through these workbooks and, continue to complement that first one, I am going to be talking about why it is that people allow themselves to be cheated on. Why is it that people allow themselves to be in this friend zone with someone and continue to want more? And I think a lot of that goes back to exactly what we just said, the relationship that we have with ourselves first. So yeah, that's just deeper and deeper. But again, I don't want to give too many teasers and spoilers.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who want a relationship, really, they want a relationship with themselves to feel better. A lot of times people go into a relationship not maybe necessarily because they want to be with someone. It's more because they want someone to help them, and they want to be kind of with someone. I don't know if you know what I'm getting at. It's kind of like
Humans need to feel love. We need to feel intimacy. We need to feel touched. We need to feel, we need our serotonin levels to be going. That's just human nature. And so naturally, when you find this person that starts doing all these things for you internally, you want to hold on to them. And even when they start being maybe abusive or, start neglecting your needs, or your relationship becomes toxic, you aren't ready to let go of all those things yet, because I think oftentimes, I'm not generalizing all humans, but often we feel like, well, I'm not going to find anybody else that's going to do these things for me. The few things that this good person does, I may not find that again. And it's like, no. Like, you can do it for yourself. God can do it for you. The universe can do it for you. Your spiritual relationship can do it for you. you don't need another human to satisfy those things. There's so many other ways to feel those. If you just, again, put the work in, give it a chance, and really start to get to know yourself, be alone with yourself. I tell people that too, like, be alone with yourself, be alone with your thoughts. And if you're uncomfortable, then you need to spend a lot more time there.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. It will be uncomfortable. This stuff will be uncomfortable, but it's a bridge to something a lot greater. Yeah, and what you definitely put in words, I was trying to say that some people seek relationships just to get gratitude for themselves and self-affirmations, when at the end of the day, you really should be doing that for yourself, because what they say can only help you so much. And at the end of the day, you really have to figure out what you want for yourself. And, it's all about self-empowerment. And it's just true. It's like, yeah, it just seems like as individuals, the most important thing that I've experienced is that realizing what I'm capable of and what I can do, and going from there, not relying on what other people are saying. I've even said that in one of our posts. Don't rely on our posts. We post positive stuff, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like your job and your duty to yourself to treat yourself, if you ever heard that. But yeah, so that's what we even say that in some of our posts. It's like, we love spreading positive messages, but please don't rely on our posts. We really hope that you can find gratitude within yourself. You can empower yourself, where maybe you won't even need our platform anymore. That sounds bad. As a marketer, that's not really something you say you want them to stay on, but it would be awesome if people actually can get help from this and then move on and say, I've experienced this and now I'm on to something a lot better. And I think these people this was the journey. We even posted about, like you said, things take time, and that's the point. The reason why, and if things didn't take time and things weren't hard, who would care at the end though? Like, I mean? Like, there wasn't a journey for like a job you apply for or something you go through. Well, then you got the job. Good for you. Like, who cares at that point? Because there was no reason. Like, there was no motivation. There was no journey. There was no story that you could tell. It was just, you got this job easily with no background, no journey, no anything. Again, you're not going to feel satisfied with that either. So yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I mean, just to wrap up that thought, I would say that most people are so rewarded when they build that great love within themselves and then share that love with somebody else. So once you find, how to love yourself, how to reward yourself, how to make commitments to yourself, once you can do all that with you, the power that you have doing it with somebody else is so much greater than when you don't have it with yourself and you're trying to create it with someone.
Oh, so good. Yeah, I love it. Awesome. I love this talk. I think it's awesome. But
Thank you. Same.
Yeah. Great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, we kind of touched on a lot: self-motivation, personal development. Oh, you know what? I have a question about recovery. So,
yes.
Let's say someone who's kind of going down that path, and you have no clue what to do. What do you think they should do? I know every situation is different, but on a general term, the situation is like, maybe your friend is starting to do drugs, and you have no clue what to do. What is the first step they should do? Should it be to talk to them, look up resources? I'm just curious. For our audience who may have that experience.
For sure. It's always the touchy area, because of course, when someone is just beginning that path, they're in a very fragile state, right? So you don't want to just come at them and be like, hey, are you doing drugs? Because they're probably like, no. And then your relationship is going to be hurt at that point if there's somebody defensive and don't want to tell you yet. So, I mean, the way that I have personally gone about it in my own situations was kind of waiting for an open door, waiting for an opportunity to be like, hey, I've noticed that you're sleeping a lot. Like, are you okay? Or, hey, I've noticed that you missed work the last couple of days. Is everything cool? Did you get fired? Are you having trouble at work with anyone? So not necessarily like, hey, are you doing drugs? But like, hey, I've noticed a change in your behavior. Do you want to talk about it? And a lot of times that is a better way to start the conversation, because they're going to tell you either an excuse, or they're going to tell you a lie, or they're going to be real with you and be like, no, like, hey, like I've been, really depressed. I've been sleeping lately. My breakup with so-and-so really hurt me. So I felt this way. And you'll get those deeper talks going, and that will open up the door for them to start thinking, am I ready to tell them what I'm really doing? Because that's got to be on them, unless you literally catch them red-handed, which has also happened. Because then you could be like, I just caught you doing drugs. Do you want to get help? And I say, do you want to get help? Because not everybody is going to want help. And you can't exhaust yourself and kill your energy trying to help someone that doesn't want the help yet. And I had to learn that the hard way. I had to learn that the very hard way, because that was one of the biggest reasons why I, had lost connections with one of my best friends. He went rogue, started doing all these drugs, went off the deep end. And I just, I think he thought that maybe I would judge him. And I mean, at a certain point too, you just get lost in the sauce, is what I would say, what I like to say. And you don't think about the people that you love. You're not thinking about that anymore. Your head's not there. So that is also a space where people don't want help then. And when they do want help, they will tell you. But I say, when someone's going through that path and they're going through that path, you've caught them, for sure, you've got the facts, just send them text messages, call them, check on them, do a life check, tell them that you're there for them. You're not judging them. You love them. Whenever they are ready to get help, you'll be there for them. You'll take them. So kind of plant the seeds, start planting the seeds. But also don't let your feelings get hurt when they tell you they don't want help, because that will happen, unfortunately. But when they turn around and they tell you they do want help, it's going to be the best feeling ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just showing up for people when they're in those,
huge.
Yeah, when they're in those states with anything, if it's drugs, if it's, dealing with something else or mental health, just showing up for them is fantastic. Because like you said, we don't know what's going on in their head. We don't know what demons they're facing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not ready to even face it themselves, and facing someone else is an extra step. And so just kind of, just showing up for them, being there for them, being supportive. And of course, that's so hard, because if it's your loved one or a best friend, you see go down this path. I can imagine how heart-wrenching that is. And then when you reach out and it's not a positive response, and it even hurts the relationship even more, it's even going to feel way worse. And that's true, though, because there's not much you can do. And you holding on that baggage for them is so hard, because if they're not willing to change themselves, there's nothing you can do.
You can't do it for them.
You can't force
do it for them. Oh, no.
And even if you force someone to go through treatment and they don't want it, what's the point?
Waste. Oh, waste. Okay, I'll take that back. Maybe not a waste, but more than likely they'll end up going again. I once had a girl, and she was grown. She was a grown woman, but she had been to treatment 19 times. And she told me, she was like, honestly, she's like, my family just kept making me go. She's like, but this time, which was her 19th time, she said, this time I'm ready to be here. This time I want to be here. This time I want to change. And I was like, well, that is a miracle. And so with that, I go to say, if you end up going several times, you're going to get some nuggets. You're going to get the seeds planted. You're going to hear something. Something will stick out to you, but it might not be the something to make you stay. And that's okay. Also recognize that not everybody gets to go 19 times. Not everybody gets to go 2 times. And that is, almost a privilege, I would say. Not everybody gets that chance. And for that person, just while I'm here, because I don't want to forget to not say this, but for that person that is feeling that way and is digging at these things for relief and looking in all the wrong spots for help, you don't need to do all that. there's so many hotlines, there's so many resources, there's so many numbers you can call. Like we talked about, if you feel more comfortable talking to a stranger, then find one. You can Google any recovery number. There's so many numbers. You can find a treatment center. Out here in Vegas, I say like recovery centers are like a Starbucks, are on every corner. And yeah, they're just everywhere. And I know they're actually really prevalent in California as well. They're everywhere. They're like a Starbucks. So, if you feel more comfortable talking to a stranger, find one. If you don't want to talk to your loved ones, that's okay. You don't need to, but talk to someone and work your way into that conversation, even if you're not ready.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like that. Even if you're not ready.
Yeah, and to clarify my verbiage, when I say even when you're not ready, I mean even when you're not ready to stop doing drugs, still talk about the fact that you're doing drugs, because there's not to sound any type of way, but there's healthier ways to do drugs. You can go to a place and get clean needles. You can go to a place and get Narcans. You can go to a place and get trainings. You can go to a place and just get information on like, okay, if I'm going to do this with my body, let me at least be smart about it. There's so many resources out there and so many things to learn how to just, if you're going to live this way, at least, think about harm reduction. Think about, just being safe about it. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And I'll say that even if you have reached out to someone and you showed up for them and things did not go well, and maybe you're not even friends anymore and the relationship is just not there anymore, at least know in your heart that you did what you could and you did the right thing. And even if you lose friendships over it, it kind of shows what kind of friend you were, if that makes any sense.
For sure.
But awesome. I think we talked about a lot of good, heavy information, good conversations flowing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your positive story, what you do for others. It was great having you. Thank you so much. Did you want to bring anything up that we didn't touch on that you would like our audience to know?
If you want to find me anywhere and on all platforms, I can be found at TC Mentality, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm not too live on Twitter though, being honest. That's more for uni. And for those of you struggling, going through any suicidal ideations or anything like that, really actually anything mental health, look out for the Uni Podcast. We have so many great episodes coming out on so many different things, mental health related, suicide prevention, talking to survivors. So definitely the Uni Podcast, reach out, look out, TC Mentality, God's Gangster. Look for those projects, and don't be shy. If you want me to be your stranger that you need to talk to, definitely reach out to me. You can slide into my DMs on any of those platforms and just shoot me a message and be like, hey, can we talk? And I'd be more than willing to help and talk and give you resources. I know so many resources. So if anybody out there needs one, please message me. Do not be shy.
Awesome. Yeah, we will for sure tag Uni and you in the posts.
Awesome.
So they'll know exactly where to go if they need that support or assistance. But awesome. If you didn't have anything else, thank you so much for coming. And if you need anything else, let us know. We'd be willing to help with anything that you're working on. We can help with Uni if you ever need help with that. But awesome.
Sweet. Thank you so much. And by all means, let me know when you have things coming out, and I'll be sure to share it as well.
Ooh, thank you so much. Share it on your Snapchat. I saw your Snapchat handle and all those. That's so many followers. That's great. Please share our stuff with them.
I will. As soon as you hit me with it, it's going out.
Awesome. It should be soon because usually we do the magazine, which takes a while to write this stuff. But since this is a podcast, you can easily edit it this weekend and get it out as soon as next week.
Awesome. I love it. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Taylor. And like I said, anything, let us know. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Have a good weekend.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much, Taylor, for all the amazing work that you've done and coming on this podcast. We really appreciate all the stuff that you do for people in society and what you've been doing for a lot of these survivors. So thank you so much for your contributions to society. And to anyone watching this, if you know anyone that has issues of mental health, suicide ideations, or even is dabbling in substance abuse, you can always contact Taylor. Reach out to us at positivevibesmag@gmail.com if you want to get in contact with them. And other than that, thank you so much again, Taylor, and we really hope that our audience really learn something from this and can take this information and help others and create a positive light and energy for the others around them. Thank you.